Hi, welcome to BU Law. My name is Eden Holmes and I will be your virtual tour guide today. A little bit about me before we get started. I'm originally from a small town outside of Nashville, Tennessee, but I went to Purdue University in Indiana for undergrad. I bounced around a little bit, but in law school I have really pursued a career in criminal justice, and after I graduate in May, I will be working for a juvenile court system in Norfolk, Virginia. As we walk through the building, I'll point out a lot of different things to you and just kind of talk about what your experience would be here at BU. First off, I'm going to point out our Student Government Association office. The Student Government Association is our largest student organization here on campus because they oversee all of our different student organizations and the student body as a whole. They help provide grant funding to our different student organizations to host their own events, social events, networking events, panelists, and speakers, but they also host a lot of their own events as well. We do a bi-weekly bar review where we basically go take over a bar somewhere in Boston. There's a ski trip every year, Halloween party, law prom. It's a lot more fun than high school prom. It's a really good time. Now we're coming into the lobby area of the law school. It's a big open area with a lot of space for students to hang out, study, meet up with friends, and stuff like that. Now, the law school underwent a huge renovation in 2014-2015 with added over 100,000 square feet of student-oriented space. Behind you, you'll see the exterior of the old building, which they incorporated into the new architecture, just showing how much they added on to provide for the best possible environment for the students here. Now, let's talk a little bit about what to expect during your first year of law school. So your entire 1L class, so all of the first year students, will be divided up into 3 sections. Section A, Section B, and Section C. Section A represent. You spend pretty much all of your time that first year with the other students in your section. Each semester, you'll take 3 doctrinal classes with the other students in your section. You will take, in the fall, torts, civil procedure, and contracts. In the spring, you'll take constitutional law, criminal law, and property. 2 of those doctrinal classes will be with your entire section, so that's a group of around 65 to 75 students. 1 of those doctrinal classes will be with a half section, so that's a much smaller group of around 30 to 35 students. You will also have a legal writing class that's drawn from the same overall group of students, but is a much smaller community. It's usually only around 12 to 14 students per legal writing class. Let's head into one of the large classrooms so you can see what a doctrinal style classroom would look like. The lights will come on automatically. So this is an example of what a large doctrinal style classroom would look like. This is where you might have some of those 1L doctrinal classes, or you might have some upper level courses that are very popular for students. Classes like administrative law, corporate law, or health law, that a lot of students will take across a variety of disciplines, might be held in a large classroom like this. Now, it's really hard to say exactly what the 1L experience is going to be because it varies so much depending on the professors. They each teach their classes very differently. Some professors use the time-honored, law school beloved method of cold calling, the Socratic method, where they call on students throughout the class, ask them questions in order for you to engage with the material and give feedback to the class. But they go about that in a million different ways as well. Some professors will call on 2 or 3 people per class. There's some real back and forth, you have a real conversation, but then you don't get called on as frequently in those classes. Some professors will call on 30 to 40 people per class, just boom, 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 quick questions and answers. Some professors will ask questions that are pretty much directly from the text. They just want to make sure you did the reading. While other professors will ask questions that are more engaging. They want to be sure that you are engaging with the material on a deeper level. They want to have a little bit of a debate and a conversation with you about your opinions on things. Some professors will call randomly. There's actually one professor that uses a random number generator to figure out who he's going to call on each day. Other professors will use a panel system. So you're on panel maybe 2 or 3 times a month. These are days that you're eligible to be called on. The other days you can just kind of sit back and relax. It really varies depending on the professor, but they do really try, out of the 3 professors you'll have each semester during 1L, to have 3 different teaching styles. Some of them might cold call, some might use a panel system, some might just lecture. because they know that students have different kinds of learning methods, work best with different kinds of instructors. So they try to give you varied instructors so that you will have an environment where you can do well. I personally got very unlucky during my first year civil procedure class during the cold calling part of the course because my surname is Holmes, like Oliver Wendell Holmes. And if Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote an opinion, if he was cited in an opinion, if he was alive and practicing law somewhere at the time an opinion was written, I would get cold called for it because the professor just loved saying, "Miss Holmes, tell me about Holmes," which was almost every single day in civil procedure. I ended up doing pretty well in the class. I think it's because I could never skate on the reading. I had to be very attentive. I'm gonna step out here. So that's your first year. During your second and third year at BU, it is completely up to you what kind of classes you want to take, what kind of things you want to do. There's really only 3 requirements you have to fulfill during your second and third year of law school. First, you have to take some sort of class or participate in some sort of activity that's going to be considered professional responsibility credit. You can do this by taking a 3-credit course called Professional Responsibility, or you can take a variety of other legal ethics classes, just making sure that we all have a foundation in those important rules that govern our responsibility as attorneys, our responsibility towards clients, and our responsibility towards the court system. The second requirement that you have to fulfill during your second, I went to the wrong floor. The second requirement that you have to fulfill during your second or third year of law school is you have to participate in some sort of activity or program that's going to be considered experiential learning. This can be a clinic, a practicum, a semester in practice, some sort of hands-on programming that you need to be involved in as a student. I'll talk a little bit more about clinics when we get up to the clinic offices on the 13th floor. The third requirement that you have to fulfill during your second or third year of law school is participating in some sort of activity or some sort of program that's going to generate a substantial writing document. Now, this can be a piece of around 30 to 40 pages, and a lot of students will fulfill this requirement by writing a note as a member of a student journal, an academic piece that may be published. Other students will fulfill this requirement by taking a seminar and using that large seminar paper at the end of the semester to fulfill this writing requirement. Other students might do independent study with a professor and generate some sort of article or written document through that they can use to fulfill that writing requirement. Other than those 3 things, it is entirely up to you what kind of classes and activities you want to participate in during your second and third year of law school. Some students will kind of dip their toe in different ponds, take different kinds of classes in different subject matter areas to figure out what kind of things really interest them. Other students who are maybe governed by a decision, they really want to go into IP law, will just take every class that's possible in IP and really get grounded in that specific subset of the law. One of my friends absolutely hates doctrinal classes. She really doesn't like lectures, so she only takes seminar classes. That's how she picks her classes every semester. People have very different approaches to it. I've taken a lot of what are known as bar courses. These are classes that are considered helpful when it comes to taking the bar exam in pretty much every state. These are classes like administrative law, trust and estates, family law, conflict of laws, that will help me when it comes to sitting down and taking the bar exam. But I've still had lots of room in my schedule to take some seminars and participate in clinical experience. We're gonna step into the library, right back here. So the library is open for students every day of the week, including on the weekends, and it probably is the most popular place on campus for students to study. Personally, I can't study in the library because it's just too quiet for me. I get really self-conscious about rustling papers that I'm going to bother everybody, but it really is an incredibly popular location for students to study in the library. One of our biggest resources that are available in our library are our research librarians. They are JDs and librarians, and they know their stuff. They're really wonderful at helping students learn about research, learn about how to do different types of legal research and resources. They actually teach part of your first year legal writing class during your first year to help you figure out how to use the research tools, how to use different kinds of resources to get to the best result with your various forms of legal research. You can schedule appointments with the research librarians, or you can just go up to the front desk and ask for assistance whenever you need it. Let's step back through here. law school is a lot more like high school than it is like college. You take all of the classes with the same people, there's prom, you have a locker. It's just convenient for students to have a locker here on campus. It really is helpful for students to have a place to store their belongings during the day, just have that kind of resource. Personally, it helps me a lot with procrastination because my textbooks don't come home with me. They live in my locker because I'm one of those people that if I had an hour's worth of reading to do and I took my textbook home, I would piddle around and end up doing that reading at midnight. Whereas if my textbook is in my locker, I will get it done and then I can go home and actually relax in the evenings. We're also just 2 blocks away from the gym that all students have access to, and we're along a really wonderful running route on the Charles. There's actually showers in the basement of this building, so a lot of students use their school locker as a gym locker as well. That's where they keep their toiletries and that kind of thing. They can work out in between classes or in the morning, shower in the basement of the law school, and just kind of have that resource too. Right over here, you'll see one of our group study rooms. So we have around 40 study rooms scattered throughout the building. Some of them are pretty small. We'll house around 4 students. Others are much larger. We'll hold 12 students. A lot of them will have computer monitors in those rooms or whiteboards, stuff that you can use that for. They're very popular for students to reserve in advance, maybe if you are trying to study with a group of friends, maybe you have some sort of partner project, you can reserve one of those rooms to have a place to study and work. Other people will reserve one if they just know they really need to sit down and not have anybody disturb them while they're writing a paper. They can reserve a room and kind of have that private study space for them as well. You are not required to reserve the study rooms though. You can just walk into one that's not occupied. It's usually what I do. I always forget to reserve one. Right over here, you'll see our cafeteria. It is a very popular place for students to study, especially students who like to have a lot of natural light while they're working. Students will come here to eat lunch, meet up with friends, and get some work done. It is also a full service cafe. In the mornings, they have breakfast sandwiches, Starbucks coffee, all of the fixings. At lunchtime, they have soups and salads and sandwiches, some other stuff brought over, including sushi and stuff like that. And a lot of students will use this to grab their lunch on most days. I promise it's just a little bit of a cold. We are actually right next door to the main undergraduate student union that has around 16 different dining options. They've got a Panda Express, they have a big sushi bar, salad bar, there's a grilled cheese place, tons of other dining options. If the cafe isn't serving what you feel like on a specific day, you can just pop right over there. There are also refrigerators and microwaves scattered throughout the building available for students to use at any given time. Right behind me, over here, you'll see a mural. These are various BU Law alums, things that they have gone on to do in their education, in their careers following their education at BU Law. In this mural, you'll see depicted circuit court judges, state Supreme Court judges, famous litigators, the governor and ambassador, and the first woman who was barred in the state of Massachusetts was a BU grad. Something that is in this mural and is a huge part of the ethos and personality here at BU is our commitment to diversity. BU was the first law school, as of our founding in 1869, to be universally inclusive. Do not discriminate based on race, national origin, gender, or any other kind of orientation. Actually, in our first ever graduating class, we had non-white international students, which at the time, in 1971, was incredibly groundbreaking. Now, this speaks to something that really is a big part of the community and personality here, is that commitment to diversity. Now, I know diversity is such a buzzword. Everybody likes to say that they're diverse, but I really feel that that is something that is not just preached, it really is practiced here on campus in terms of the types of organizations that we have, the types of community that is fostered both within the faculty, administration, and the students. All of those organizations really do foster a supportive environment for students, both with traditional forms of diversity as well as other kinds of diversity. People who come from all sorts of different backgrounds before they go to law school, have had different careers, come from different places to really stimulate a engaged and diverse student population who is going to come at problems from different places and create really interesting and dynamic solutions and answers to those various problems that are proposed. I'm going to talk a little bit about legal writing now. So as I mentioned before, legal writing is a class that you will take during your first year of law school. And in my ever so humble opinion, it is the most important class that you will take in law school. Now, legal writing is a 1-credit course you take both semesters, and it is led by a member of the faculty and one of the research librarians. And they will introduce you to all of the different kinds of legal writing that you will need to do during your first year for internships, externships, and other forms of legal writing that you'll use throughout your career in postgraduate positions as well. They'll help you figure out how to write different kinds of research memos, how to write motions, appellate briefs, arguments, how to do different kinds of legal research that is such an intrinsic skill to being successful as an attorney. This classroom is an example of a room you might have your legal writing class in, or a smaller upper level class, like a seminar or just a smaller class in general. There are also 2 other students assigned to your legal writing class, upper level students. They're known as lawyering fellows, and they work with your class throughout that year to provide you with additional attention and assistance as you develop your writing in that class. You're actually required, before you turn in any draft for the legal writing class, to have it reviewed by your lawyering fellow and your faculty member, and they will literally go through your writing line by line, giving you really comprehensive feedback on everything you need to do to improve your writing, and really they'll personalize your feedback in an incredible way. You might already be a wonderful writer, but everybody can always be better, and having that kind of attention and feedback to help you build and grow as a writer is truly influential, and will help you build your legal career with those kinds of skills. Now, the legal writing program is also your first opportunity to be exposed to different kinds of hands-on programming. Through the legal writing program, you will also participate in something called moot court. This is an appellate argument. You will write an appellate brief through the class that will be reviewed by all of the faculty and all of that stuff. And then you will have the chance to litigate or argue that appellate brief in front of a panel of judges. So if you're somebody who's interested in litigation, this can be a really great opportunity for you to figure out, do I really like this? Is this something I would actually enjoy doing? Is this the kind of work that I thought it was going to be? And can help you, guide you to figure out, do you want to do mock trial? Do you want to do upper level moot court? Are you actually interested in a career in litigation? Also through the legal writing class, you'll participate in something called Lawyering Lab. Now, Lawyering Lab is a 1L only thing. You come back a week early from winter break. You still get plenty of time. I think you get 3 weeks instead of 4. Come back a week early from winter break, and you spend that week in a transactional simulation. So you'll be on a team of students working with another team of students trying to negotiate a contract. We have a lot of transactional attorneys in the Boston area. Will come in and be paired with a team. We'll help each team to develop their negotiation strategy, help them draft the contract. So if you're somebody who's really interested in transactional law, that can be a great exposure to what that actually looks like in practice, whether you actually enjoy that kind of work. Really have that opportunity to get your hands dirty in that way, even during the first year of law school. Now we're going to talk a little bit about journals, and we're going to go see one of the journal offices. So journal is something you can participate in during your 2nd or 3rd year of law school, not something you have to worry about as a 1L at all. Now we have 6 different law journals at BU. We have Boston University Law Review, our review of banking and finance, the International Law Journal, the Journal of Science and Technology, American Journal of Law and Medicine, and the Public Interest Law Journal. Now each one of those journals publishes academic pieces kind of throughout the semester that are affiliated with their journal subject matter. And as a member of a journal, you will be editing those academic pieces, providing that specific feedback to help the authors grow those pieces, develop those pieces. You'll be checking their sources to make sure their arguments are well supported. You'll be giving line by line editing feedback. You know, when they say articles are peer reviewed, yeah, as a journal, you are the peer who is reviewing those articles and readying them for publication. It can be a really great way to figure out if you enjoy academic writing, figure out what's going on in the area of a specific journal at any given time, as well as a great way to build your own writing by comparing it to the academic writing that is actually being published. Also, as a member of a journal, you will write your own student note. Now, this is your own academic article that may be published by your journal that you will work with a faculty member and the journal staff in developing and editing that note throughout your year on the journal, with the goal of getting that piece published by the journal. I'll just go ahead and point out here, this is our public interest law journal office. I am a member of PILG. I'm actually the editor-in-chief of this journal, so I spend a lot of time in this office. It tends to be where I study. Right back here, you'll see our student lounge. Now, this is a space where a lot of students will come during the day to hang out, meet up with friends. There is a standing ping pong tournament on Thursday afternoons that people will participate in. It's also the home for our various student organizations. Now, we have over 40 different student organizations here on campus. We have affinity-based organizations that are affiliated with traditionally underrepresented groups in the law. These are organizations like the Black Law Students Association, the Latin American Law Students Association, Women's Law Students Association, Muslim Law Students Association, Middle Eastern and Southeast Asian Law Students Association, Jewish Law Students Association, Outlaw, which is affiliated with traditionally LGBT students. I could go on. These affinity organizations are a great place for students to connect with other students from maybe similar backgrounds or identities as them, but can also be a great way to network with professionals. Each one of these organizations will bring in professionals who identify with that affinity in some way for panels and speaker events and that kind of thing, and can be a great way for students to connect with professionals who have some sort of commonality and can give them some really great guidance and feedback as they pursue their careers. You also have traditional business type organizations, professional organizations. These are organizations like the Environmental Law Society or the Criminal Law Society, Transactional Law Society, IP Law Society, that are a great way for you to connect with other students who may be interested in similar career options as you are, but also for those networking benefits, because they'll bring in different speakers and panelists. You can hear from lots of attorneys who are actually working in those fields, learn more about what that actual hands-on work looks like, and be able to effectively pursue that in your own career as well. And we've also got like fun, silly student organizations. We have our mock trial team, not that that's fun and silly, but it's really an enjoyable experience to go out and compete in litigation competitions against other schools. We have a softball team, I believe we have a dodgeball team, we've got a running club, we have Contraband, which is our student band that performs at different events throughout the semester. We have Legal Follies, which is our campus comedy troupe that performs at different events throughout the semester. Just lots of different opportunities for you to be involved, connect with other students, and build those kind of relationships. Now, there's not one right way to do law school. You know, I've talked about my involvement in student organizations, but that doesn't mean you need to be involved in that many student organizations or participate in them at all. It's really up to you how you want to tailor your own student experience. Most students are probably heavily involved in around one or two student organizations. Some, like me, are involved in many more than two student organizations. I've been heavily involved in our public interest project, which connects with students who are going into careers about public interest, as well as our Jewish Law Students Association, are two organizations that I've really connected and identified with. But not everybody is geared towards student organizations in general. Some students would rather focus kind of all of their attention on their academics, or maybe just balancing their academics with their life at home. That's all completely okay. There's not one right way to go about this. So this is the Student Affairs Office. Student Affairs is your home away from home here on campus. They kind of define their mission as helping all students to control everything that's going on within their academic life and their life outside of law school, so that everything is running as smoothly as possible and can really help students be successful in their careers during law school and after. They help to administer all of our different student organizations and are really a lot of help and guidance for students here on campus. Just kind of an example of something student organizations does. So last year, I found out I had to have pretty emergency surgery. It's nothing serious, everything's okay, but I went to Student Affairs, told them what was going on, and they said, it's okay, We will contact your professors for you, make sure that all of your classes are going to be recorded, filmed, so that you can watch them when you're feeling better. We'll make sure that you are in no way penalized for missing class on those days. We'll make sure that any deadlines that you've got coming up are going to be extended. And just having that kind of support from the administration as I was going through this thing in my personal life was so helpful moving forward. I had that kind of support and that kind of network coming from the law school itself. Also down this hallway, you'll see the registrar's office. They help us with planning courses, receiving our transcripts, and fulfilling exams. Excuse me. Right down this hallway, we will step up and see the Charles River Room. It's one of my favorite rooms here on campus. And we'll talk a little bit about living in Boston and the different connections that we have for Boston. As we're kind of walking through, you'll see there's some of our other study rooms that I was mentioning earlier, all of these small rooms for students to use as they're working to kind of have a private space here in the building. So the Charles River Room is very popular for students to come in and study because it has an absolutely gorgeous view, but it is also the home of a lot of our different luncheons, networking events, panels, and stuff like that. It's just an absolutely gorgeous space. Come up closer to the window. You'll see there's an absolutely gorgeous view of the Charles River, a wonderful running route along the Charles. But one of my favorite things about this view is that it really does demonstrate how close and how central we are to downtown Boston. It is around a 15-minute T ride from the offices of most of the major law firms in the city, from most of the largest courthouses in the city, and a lot of the different legal organizations. So it is incredibly easy for students, just due to geographic location, to connect with attorneys who live and work in downtown Boston, to go meet up with somebody for coffee, to go to a court observation, to participate in any of those activities in those organizations, and build those kinds of networking and connections with Metro Boston and all of the various attorneys and benefits that are housed within this wonderful city. Additionally, it means we're really easy for us to get people to come here. If we have a networking event on campus, we have a luncheon, it's really easy for us to get attorneys to stop by and help us to connect with students and help them to build those connections that can help their academic careers and their postgraduate options and facilitate those organizations and opportunities for students. For example, a judge at a networking event I was at a couple weeks ago told us that we were as close to him as the restaurant he normally goes to for lunch. So if we invite him to something, he's coming, which is wonderful because of the opportunities that they can have for students, the kind of exposure that can give students to what his life experience is like, and the kind of benefits and connections that he could offer students who foster those relationships with him. Networking is a huge part of being successful as an attorney, and building those kind of connections can translate really well into any legal market, even if you intend to leave the Boston, Massachusetts area. A lot of our students do, but the networking and connections that they build through their experience here can travel and translate to other legal markets. For example, a friend of mine knew she wanted to go back to Seattle. She was like, Boston is cool, but I wanted to go home to Seattle. But she still networked and built connections with law firms here in Boston, but told them she wanted to go back to Seattle. One of those law firms told her, we really like you. We'll call our Seattle office and make sure that they are going to give you an interview. And they did, and she is now working at that law firm in Seattle in a job that she got purely because of her networking and experience here in Boston. We will head up to the 6th floor then and take a look at some of our practice courtrooms. A little bit more about living in Boston. So most students do live fairly close to campus. I'm gonna throw a couple neighborhoods out at you. Most students tend to live in the Brighton, Alston area. Those tend to be the closest, lowest rent neighborhoods, but some students will live even closer in the Fenway or Brookline neighborhoods, which are a little bit more expensive, but are still very popular for students. There is some on-campus housing available for students, graduate housing. It's about the same cost-wise as living off campus, but it is an additional option for you. You don't have to worry about finding an apartment or a landlord or stuff like that. A lot of students do connect with each other as roommates before they start law school here. Through the class of 2023 Facebook page, you'll see students will post, looking for roommates. If I have an apartment, I need another roommate, that sort of thing, and connect with other students that way that they're going to live with. That's what I did. My first 2 years in law school, I lived with 2 students that I met on Facebook through, the class of 2020 Facebook page. It was a wonderful experience for both of those 2 years, and really worked out, living in Boston, getting that kind of initial exposure. So now we're on the 6th floor, and we're going to take a look at some of our practice courtrooms. So we have 3 practice courtrooms scattered throughout the building. We have 2 trial-style courtrooms and 1 practice appellate courtroom. This is the smaller practice appellate courtroom. And then back here, you'll see our largest trial-style courtroom. Now, so you would use these courtrooms if you were in a trial advocacy class, if you were on the mock trial team, if you were on the moot court team, if you were participating in a clinic that had some sort of litigation component where you were actually going to be in court for that clinic. You would come into these courtrooms and use these spaces to practice and get really comfortable in that environment. For example, I am in the criminal clinic, which means that I do have criminal trial cases in the Quincy District Court. I had a trial coming up, and so I had my entire case prepared. I came in with my entire case. Another student prepared the entire defense case for that specific defendant. Our professor played the judge. Other students in the class played all of our witnesses and the jurors. We went through the entire trial in an actual courtroom space, so that going into that trial, I felt really comfortable, knew what was going on, felt familiar with the space. You don't want the first time you realize you have to look up at a judge to be during the actual trial. Just having that kind of comfort and familiarity with some of the mechanics of working in a courtroom was incredibly helpful. So now we're gonna head up to the 9th floor and check out our career development office. Now I'm gonna talk a little bit about advisors next. So starting off, right off the bat, during your first year here, you will be assigned 4 advisors. Your first advisor will be your student advisor. Now this is your lawyering fellow that is assigned to you through the legal writing class. And they're available to help you with legal writing and all of the different aspects of that class, but can also help you out with additional materials, questions about what to do for this class, how to prepare for exams, that kind of thing. They're a really great aid and help for that as well. You can also get additional upper class advisors if you would like through a lot of our different student organizations. For example, I am a mentor to a student through our Women's Law Society. It's just getting an additional place, some additional feedback on and guidance about what to do and that sort of thing. Just having that kind of support from an upper class student. You will also be assigned a faculty advisor. Now they try to match you with a faculty advisor generally based on the kind of law you want to practice. They'll match you with somebody who's in that area. But maybe you don't know what kind of law you want to practice. They'll try to connect you with someone who has some other kind of commonality with you. Maybe they're from your hometown or they went to the same undergrad as you, that sort of thing. So you have some sort of starting place for your relationship. Now your faculty advisor will help you with myriad amounts of things. A lot of them will have luncheons for their students, that sort of thing. And you can build really great relationships with that faculty member. They can give you great guidance about what classes you should take and advice about how to pursue your education here. Additionally, you will have an alumni advisor. Now your alumni advisor can be in the Boston area, but they can be anywhere else. If you're like, I know I want to go to Texas after I graduate, they'll assign you to an alum in Texas. We have alums in every single state and in over 100 countries that they can connect you with and provide you with those tools, give you advice about your career, guidance about what to do while you're in law school, and a lot of assistance that way. They can connect you generally with somebody who's in the same area of law that you want to go into, but that's not the only method. For example, one of my biggest concerns and issues going into law school was because I'm a military spouse. My husband is an officer in the Navy. And so going into law school, I really was unclear about, I didn't know where I was going to be when I graduated. I didn't know what I was going to be doing when I graduated. I didn't know where he was going to be based, if he was going to be deployed, what was going on. And so my alumni advisor is a military spouse. Now, she's in a completely different area of law than me, but was still able to give me a lot of helpful feedback moving forward about how to go about things, how to apply for jobs with this specific topic and subject matter that was going on in my life. And it was really helpful to have someone who had been there, done that with my specific scenario going into law school. Now, your fourth advisor will be your career development and public service advisor through our career development and public service office that's right here. Now, our career development advisors are JDs. Most of them have at least 5 years of practice experience before they come on as advisors. Some of them a lot more, and they know their stuff. They specialize in specific areas of the law, and you will be assigned to one that connects with your specific interests. They help you figure out how to apply, when to apply, where to apply for internships, externships, and postgraduate positions. They help you communicate with employers. They'll do one-on-one resume review with you. They'll help you write cover letters. They'll do practice interviews with you, give you a lot of personalized feedback. They'll send you, recommendations for, hey, you should apply for this, or hey, you should apply for this. And it's just really wonderful to have that kind of support from the law school itself. I mean, we're all here to get a great legal education, but ideally we all graduate with jobs, and the CDO is really essential with making that happen for students. It's kind of an example of something that the CDO does. So going after my 1L year, I had like 3 interviews for different internships in 2 days. And I contacted my CDO advisor and was like, oh my God, what do I do? And she said, before I came on as an advisor, I used to work at the first place you're interviewing at. Before that, I worked at the second place that you're interviewing at. And when I was in law school, I interned at the third place that you're interviewing at. So at this place, you should really talk about this thing on your resume. At this place, this is a buzzword they really like. At this place, you should really talk about this. And so going into those interviews, I already had a lot of support. I already kind of knew what to expect and what I was going into with all of that kind of material and all of that subject matter. We're gonna head upstairs now, and we'll talk a little bit more about experiential learning. Now, I've thrown a couple of words at you that I want to define. Clinics, externships, semesters in practice, and practicums. There is a difference between all of those 4 things. So clinics and practicums are run through the law school up on our 13th floor. And they vary a little bit in terms of how many credits you get from them and what kind of work you're going to be doing. So a clinic, you have a classroom component, so you're in class talking about a subject a couple times a week, but also a practice component. So you're going out, you're doing work in that specific area supervised by your professor in that clinic. A practicum is fairly similar, but it usually is a little bit smaller in terms of the number of credits, the amount of work that you'll be doing, and a little bit smaller in terms of your overall requirements. It usually has a little bit less of a classroom component, a little bit more of the practice component. Now, an externship and a semester in practice vary in terms of what you'll be doing, just a little bit. So they are not run through the law school, although the Career Development Office will help you to get an externship or a semester in practice if you want to get one. You are going out for either of those positions. You are going out into the community working for a judge or a law firm or a legal organization. For externship, you're generally doing that for a certain number of hours per week in exchange for credit, but generally you're also taking additional classes. Semester in practice, you tend to be working there pretty much full time. So those are kind of the 2 differences between those things. Now, here on the 13th floor, these are our clinic offices. Is where students will be who are participating in our clinics, where they will have meetings with clients, where they'll be meeting with their faculty members, and all of those different resources. Now we have, I believe, around 16 different clinics here, tons of different options. We have 2 different IP law clinics. We have a transactional program. We have the criminal clinic, civil litigation clinic, social justice clinic, human rights clinic, immigration clinic, tons of different options and things that you can be participating in as a clinical student. The kind of work that you're going to be doing will be a little bit different depending on which clinic you're in. For example, if you were in our legislative policy and drafting clinic, you'll be working with a legislator in the Massachusetts area, write a bill or some sort of proposition that he's working on, or he or she is working on. If you are in the civil litigation clinic, you will be handling some sort of civil trial matter, be it a disability case or a housing case, something like that, where you will be actually going to court to handle the civil matter. Now, I like to think about clinics as kind of your last chance to really get your hands dirty and do actual work while the training wheels are still on, because your professor is there helping you throughout the entire process with the various cases that you'll be handling. Now, they are your cases, don't get me wrong. All of the cases that you'll be handling for clinic, you are the attorney for these cases, but your professor is there to help you. They'll help you, figure out motions. They'll read things through before you submit them to the court and give you personalized feedback on how to go about things. They're going to be sitting there in court when you have a trial or some sort of program, that they'll be available to tug on your sleeve and suggest something to you. So the training wheels are still on a little bit, but you can get this really great and wonderful hands-on learning experience. As much as I love classroom learning, after a while it's nice, after talking about so many hypothetical cases, to actually be doing hands-on work that is going to be impacting real people's lives, and I've really appreciated that through my clinical experience here. I'm going to head back downstairs now. You'll see our admissions office. So I tend to like to finish tours by talking about the thing that has confirmed to me throughout this entire experience that BU was the right choice for me. And that has been, hands down, 100% our faculty. Our faculty are top of the line. They are at the top of their respective fields, but they will all tell you that they are at BU as opposed to at another university, because the focus here is for them to teach. It's for them to be the best advocates possible for students and the best instructors that they can be. It's not the push to publish, it's not the name recognition, it's because they want to teach. And they have done such amazing things with their careers and with their lives. For example, I wrote my student note on an international criminal law topic. The professor that supervised that note worked for the International Criminal Court for several years before going into academia. They have done such incredible things, and I find it truly inspirational and aspirational. They're really easy to access. All of them host office hours that you can go to whether you're in their class or not, but I've also never had a professor turn me down if I'm like, hey, I know I'm not in your class, but I'm really interested in this article that you wrote. Can we meet for coffee and let me pick your brain? They're always 100% there for that and want to have that kind of experience with students. Additionally, our faculty want to have those connections with you. For example, I'm really interested in alternative courts, things like mental health court and drug court, and I asked a question at a panel about an alternative court. A professor who was also present at that panel, who I never had class with, emailed me about a week later and said, hey, you asked a question about alternative courts. You're not in my class, but I'm teaching a specific section on alternative courts, and I'm having a judge from a mental health court come to that class to speak. You should come to this class and I'll introduce you to this judge. I never met this professor before, but she went out of her way to build a connection with me and something that she thought was going to help me academically or career-wise. They really want to be there for you. I'm just going to keep throwing examples. So something that was kind of cool. So my 1L year, I went bowling with the faculty bowling team. It was like me and 3 friends and our faculty bowling team. We went, we had a great time, and it was really fun. And then I found out that one of those professors that summer had testified before Congress because she was one of our premier experts on European Union law. And I was like, but she was just a normal person that I could hang out with and have a beer with and go bowling with, but look at this amazing thing that she did. And so I see it a little bit like, well, I'm just a normal person that you can hang out with, have a beer with. So what kind of amazing things can I do? Being surrounded by those kind of individuals as members of our faculty, as members of our administration, have been incredibly powerful in shaping my experience at BU and confirming to me that BU was 100% the right choice for me for law school. So we are now on the 12th floor. This is our home of the admissions office. Of course, right now, everything's a little bit up in the air with everything that's going on with classes and coronavirus. But if you ever need to call or visit our admissions office, it is right here on the 12th floor. It's a very welcoming community, and of course, everyone would be so happy to hear from you. Thank you for coming on my virtual tour here today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and please stay safe and healthy.